What's up, gang? Cool. All right, let's jump in. We did do the disclosure. I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker dealer, and a member of FinRecific. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position disclosure. I got out of my TQQQ short. I got very small pins. That's new. I got a little bit of Roku. That's also new. Pretty light. And I bought some of this root as soon as the unhalted. And that, at least for the moment, it is my best trade on the day, actually. It's kind of a layup. I told myself with that 1932 offer that if I could get a price $10 or less, I would buy heavy. If I could get a price $12 or less, I would be involved. And I was able to get I didn't get below 10, but I got a decent price. And caught that nice pop up to $14. I sold some in front of $14, which was good. So still have some. We'll see how it plays out. I heard from Josh, so you never know, that the company's probably going to reject it, which is interesting because it reminds me a little bit of that SSYS that I spent quite some time in, which I am now out of. But this SSYS, a little bit of a different story. Let's go over to the daily chart and we'll take a look at the market. A little bit of a different story, but now they're kind of having a bit of a bidding war almost between NNDM and 3D Systems, both making offerings for them. First, it was just NNDM. They kept raising the price of the offering. They got as high as $20.05, and stock's trading at 14, and they're not accepting that $20 offer price. Which I don't know, it's just such a big premium, and there's definitely some issues with NNDM. I'm not going to get into all the drama about it, about kind of their leadership and the motivation for them to come in and buy SSYS. But SSYS was rejecting it and saying that they think that they're worth much more than $18 and $20, and then NNDM was trying to do a hostile takeover basically at $18, and then out of nowhere 3D Systems comes in and they make an offer above $18. So it's basically just looking for some of that premium to kind of come into this thing, whether the board is correct and it's actually worth more than these offers, or the offers go through. I figured down at that $14, $15 price range, it's something I could trade and feel like I have a little bit of an underlying bid with it. And then this root is similar but different. $19 and what was it, 32 cent buyout price. Even if the company rejects it, they're rejecting it and they're going to claim that they think that they're worth more than that there's a lot more value for shareholders in that price, and recommend that shareholders don't do it. But then you're looking at a situation where maybe the company that's trying to buy them out raises their bid, or the directors genuinely believe it, or they're just trying to save their jobs, something like that. But then I feel like it kind of creates a little bit of almost like an underlying bid underneath the stock, and it worked pretty well with me. I don't normally participate in buyouts because usually I don't feel like I have an advantage. But most of the time, the reason why I don't feel like I have an advantage is because the buyout gets announced at $19.32 and the stock is trading at 19. And sure, there's a 32-cent premium there, but if the deal doesn't end up going through and then the stock's down at $8, I got a big problem. But if I'm looking at this thing at 10, 11 with a potential buyout at 19 and change, if the deal doesn't go through, where am I going to end up at $8? And hopefully it draws enough interest towards the stock where if the board believes it's worth even more than $19.32 and that's why they're not doing it, and the stock ends up pulling back to $8 or $9, the risk reward makes sense. And that's why I was saying in my brain, I was like, if I can get a price less than $10 when they unhalt this thing, I'll probably look to get very heavy. If I get a price less than $12, I'll look to have a position to be involved. If my price that I have to pay is much worse than $12, then I probably won't be interested. The risk reward just starts to weaken out for me there a little bit. So yeah, when they unhalted it, I took the offer for some and bid in for some, and got an okay sized position there, and it worked out so far so good. So continue to monitor that. Let's go over to the market. All right, so another down day. Remember, down days, they can happen. SPY's down 0.5%. Q's down 1.3%, the real weakness there. And the IWM down only 0.2%. Loving that rotation. This is exactly what we talked about. This is exactly what we want. I think that this is the most bullish way that the market could correct. Yes, it's only one day. That could easily change tomorrow, but so far so good. The SPYs, the Qs, they seem like they got very much ahead of themselves from a technical perspective. We've seen a lot of data out there that points towards the potential upside pain trade, if it still were to come in, actually being in small caps and mid caps now. I think that information was further supported when Bill gave us a little information from Chem, which I know is someone that Bill really likes to follow. So I've had the thought process here of the S&P and the NASDAQ need a deeper correction. We went through this in detail yesterday and then briefly a little bit this morning of, you know, obviously whenever you're looking at a market, your choices are up, down, sideways, right? But we need to figure out what that up, down, sideways can look like and what the probability of up, down, sideways actually is. And the market here is absolutely bullish. You cannot look at these technicals and make an argument to me that this is not bullish. So automatically that takes the bear case away, at least for the moment. The picture could change. I'm still, going to keep saying what I've been saying, which is maybe Mike Wilson is correct, but for the moment, the market's been going higher. And when the market technicals really started getting much more bullish here and we started to indicate that we would have a breakout of the range that we had been in, when the S&P was starting to get at that 4,200 number, we're looking at SPY 420, SPY like 418, I think initially. When this market's breaking out, would you rather be long or would you rather be short because you think Mike Wilson has to be correct? And the answer is I would rather be long. I think everybody agrees. But we still need to pay attention to that sort of information. There is a reason why this person is making this argument, and it's not just him, it's a bunch of other sell-side analysts as well. And you guys know that I have a bit of disdain for sell-side analysts generally, but it doesn't mean that I don't listen to, read, and pay attention to the arguments that are being made. But I'm going to listen to what the technicals are telling me. So the technicals right now are extremely bullish. So the bear case for me is going to be the lowest probability situation. But on the bull side of the market, the move here has just got parabolic, VVIX divergence, space between the 8 and 21 EMA widening out. I mean, it just seems to me like while we absolutely could get continued momentum is a heck of a thing. We could very quickly just get a higher low yesterday or today and immediately be back to highs. My thought process is that we need to have a little bit of a deeper time or price correction than we've seen since the market's actually broken out and we've been in this very strong pattern of higher highs and higher lows. So my game plan had been, in the extreme extension of a couple of days ago, shorting. I even got net short for the first time the entire year. I'm now back actually 100% long, but I'm light. And then the game plan was, as we approach equilibrium, as we get back down to the 80 MA on the daily chart, even if I think that this one could be a little bit deeper, I'm going to be piecing out of the short, piecing back into the long. But the way I'm trying to piece back into the long side of the market is not, oh, we're back at the 80 MA, let me get back to 120% of my buying power to the long side of the market. It's, well, let me build back a little bit here. Let me get a little bit of stock back, of stock that I sold at even higher prices, just in case that momentum scenario continues. But at the same time, I want to give myself some room, because if we get the deeper pullback to some of these areas that I want to pay attention to, like SPY 430, I don't want to be bag holding a boatload of stock from 437. I want to have room to build in to a deeper price or time correction, which I think that there's a lot of evidence that we can and probably should see at this point. So that's kind of been the thought process. Today and yesterday I was actually a little bit more aggressive on the short side than I kind of usually am as far as my game plan went, but I did end up liquidating my TQQQ. I started to build back in a little bit on some of the longs that I'm already involved in. I nibbled on a little Pinterest. I nibbled on a little Roku. I'm keeping those positions, and you know, continuing to build in a little bit. I got into some Apple, and then I liquidated it. I got into some JP Morgan. I liquidated it. Those positions made me money. I got into some Alibaba, gave a great opening move, but then failed, and I just kind of liquidated that one into the close. Once again, somewhere around break even for that name. Rivian, I got stopped out of. I gave back a bit of the profit from yesterday's trade. That one was great and strong off the open, and then 100% failed. It just, you know, is what it is. Pretty happy with my trading recently, to be honest. So that's the SPYs. Qs are where the relative weakness was, and that's great. This is actually exactly what you want. If the SPYs and the Qs are going to give the deeper, bigger rest that we're looking for, if it can do that with the IWM holding above 184, holding above the 21 EMA, that's bullish rotation. That's exactly what you want to see if you're trying to be a bull in this market. Again, it's only one day, but the Qs here pretty weak, dropping below the 80 EMA on the daily chart. They're getting into this equilibrium area. I do think that there's more room, though, for these Qs to potentially price correct. 360, I think, is a spot to pay attention to. I'm really looking at, like, 357.50. I'm looking at 357.50 for Qs in the same way that I'm looking at, like, 430 for the SPYs. So we'll see how that plays out if we continue to get that correction. And doing it with the IWM holding up is fantastic. As far as individual names for today go, I want a Tesla short today. I didn't have the tenacity to hit it pre-market. I really wanted it versus 280 or back down through 280 if it gets above there. Pre-market high was 279.25. I thought about hitting some when I saw it up there pre-market this morning. I didn't. I decided to wait for the open. By the time it opened too far down from where I wanted stock. So I never got it. I know a couple people here on the team did. I know Josh was involved in it on the short side. So if you caught that, congratulations, and there's definitely more room for this thing to pull back, even though it's already almost back to the 80 MA on the daily. I mean, this Tesla's just a chart that had gone kind of absurdly parabolic. I still think that there's room for Tesla to pull back and fill this gap at 235, and it would even be healthy if it wants to do that. So I didn't capture the Tesla short today, but if you caught it, great. Another one that we were looking at, which was a pretty good trade to the short side, was a breakdown on the Google 122 support. It's another one that I didn't get involved in because I'm actually very small long still on a little bit of a bigger picture than I was looking for on the actual short trade. But I know Pat was all over this Google short. I think a bunch of you guys run it as well. It was a little bit tricky on the entry execution, but I think we communicated it well. I didn't like the short on the first bar, and that probably would have been difficult to hold, or a decent amount of room. You may have gotten shaken out. Then it kind of gave you this inside 5 and down that broke lower through that 122. That was the much better execution if you wanted to be a little bit more patient with the 80 MA beginning to kind of move lower. And then that name was just really weak, gave you a pretty good move to the downside. So yeah, just a couple good trades there. Another one that I was looking at that was difficult was this S, into the $15 area. It broke below that, but created a decent downside tail. Managed to close above 15. I wanted a little bit of a better close, but the market sold off a little bit near the close also, so that created some weakness. So it's kind of just a review there. I don't really have time for questions. I'll answer Jackie's quick question because Patrick is going to be doing the Conversations with a Pro Trader starting in 5 minutes with Greta on LinkedIn. So I'm going to encourage everyone to tune into Pat. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask them. Lots of questions in there. Keep them busy. Those questions are always appreciated from everybody, and that's it. So Jackie's question real quick is Google, do I see a small head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart? I do, yeah. Shoulder, head, shoulder. Neckline's probably that 122. You might be able to make the argument that it's actually 120. And then the continuation should be double the space between the head and the neckline. So if we measure that to, let's call it the midpoint between 120 and 122. If we measure it to 121, you got like $8 of downside from the break. So you'd be looking at a move to like 113 off that if it actually breaks, which coincides with a gap fill down here. So yeah, good call there. So if you've got it, you're swinging it, there's definitely more room for the Qs to pull back further. So I like the idea of having a short on the book right now as we look to see if this market further corrects. So appreciate the question, Jackie. At this point, I'm going to end the meeting. Just a quick brief meeting here today just to wrap things up and sum up today's trading session. Encourage everyone to jump over to Pat's interview on LinkedIn. I'll see you all there. Have a great night.